Breaking news! Puerto Ricans have once again spent 47 straight hours arguing online about who counts as Puerto Rican. Somebody from Pounce called someone from Orlando American. Some are saying that once Puerto Ricans leave the island to anywhere in Asia, they are no longer Puerto Rican, but Chinese! Someone from New York responded by posting a picture of their abuela making pasteles in the Bronx in 1974. Someone in Chicago demanded a DNA test, and somewhere in San Juan, somebody simply replied, "Ay bendito." Welcome to the Mofongo Diaries.
Welcome, everyone. Today, we are going to be talking about something that is very important to me, right? Because all we're seeing is Puerto Ricans going at it, como siempre, right?
Yeah.
You're too Puerto Rican, you're not Puerto Rican enough, and we're trying to figure out why, right? Because I am Puerto Rican from New York, and Nonsense is Puerto Rican from the island.
De Carolina. Pra. Anyways, continue.
So we are going to figure out, at least amongst ourselves, right? Because we're just two people, but we do not have a disconnect within each other, right? I ask questions, he answers them, vice versa, so that we can better understand each other, right? And hopefully use that and understand other people that are part of the diaspora.
Though, speak for yourself. I do have a disconnect within myself, and it's mainly due to the ADHD. Because I had a friend that was listening to the episode and he's like, wait a minute, but you told me that it was going to have like this music and this newscaster thing in the beginning, and I don't hear any of that. And I go listen to the episode. Shit, I uploaded the wrong fucking file. So there is kind of a disconnect in my brain within. But that's a different episode.
That is a different episode. I already got the prompt created for that, for the neurodivergence and the neurotypicals. Because I love picking people's brains.
Yes. But yeah, this diaspora disconnect is real. We be having some really strange infighting sometimes, some misinformation, miseducation, and, us accusing each other on both sides of the aisle, whether it is the diaspora Puerto Ricans, in the States or out of the island, and the Puerto Ricans inside the island. We both be throwing unnecessary shade and attacking each other. I've even personally had New Rican Puerto Ricans telling me, "Oh, you left the island. You're living in the Philippines since like 2024. That makes you Chinese now. You're not even Puerto Rican anymore."
That same person has actually been on TikTok talking about that there is still a civil guerra, right? Because TikTok will flag the word in English. There is a civil issue between the diaspora right now, and it is him against the Puerto Ricans on the island, right? Because he is the one true Boricua, and everyone who has his ancestry, his DNA, they are the true Boricuas, right?
He's a one-man army. Yes.
He is a one-man army trying to take us all down that don't agree with him. And those of us that don't agree with him, like you, like you're Asian now, me, that I am Black. I apparently am just painted in white face and wear contacts, right? It's a him issue. And when he speaks about people having this identity crisis, it's really much more as him, right? But I'm not here to single him out, right? We're not going to single him out. We're not going to have this be another bochinche live, right? But sadly, on TikTok, there are a lot of people preaching this. And instead of it unifying us, it's actually furthering the divide. It's making us now be at odds with people that 10, 15, 20 years ago, we weren't at odds with, right? Because I'm going to say this, growing up in New York, it wasn't a big difference of like, si soy boricua, si soy puertorriqueña. It was one and the same, right? It wasn't anything different. It's now that so many people are trying to other themselves, and that is what's causing the problem. So Lanza, si quieres, tú puedes hacer tu salutation, tu greeting para comenzar el podcast.
What? Wait. You want me to do that?
I want you to do your buenas tardes, damas y caballeros.
My traditional. Oh, I thought I
Yeah.
already did it. I probably was on mute. Muy buenas tardes, damas y caballeros. Bienvenidos a otro episodio de Mofongo Diaries, puñeta. Yeah.
So, I have never been called, right, and not Puerto Rican, right? I've never had that issue. I've never had to prove my Puerto Ricanness to anyone. I've never had to do any of these things now that people want us to do, right? Because a lot of people, I see a lot of people very quick to pull someone's Puerto Rican card. Oh, your grandparent was Puerto Rican, so technically you're not Puerto Rican. Puñeta, si la abuela o el abuelo era un puertorriqueño, ¿qué hace la mamá o el papá? Right? They're Puerto Rican too, right? Or do we stop counting it?
Yeah. I mean, the whole this whole issue just gets ridiculous because it's like, and and I've said this before. There's it's just so nuanced, and it's no straight up factor because here's the thing. It's all about your attitude and how you embrace the culture at the end of the day. Porque vamos a hablar claro. There's a lot of Puerto Ricans that are in New York and outside of the island that have never touched the island and love the island so much. And I would even dare say, damn, they love the island more than I do. They know more of history of the island than I do, you know? And to call a person that has such passion, such embrace for the culture, knows things about the culture that even some and the history that some people on the island don't know, and tell that person that they ain't Puerto Rican enough or that you're not Puerto Rican, that to me is an insult, you know? But then, for example, you have on the flip side people that do not know a lick of Spanish, regardless of the fact that it doesn't matter if you know Spanish or not. That doesn't make you any less a Puerto Rican. But you don't know the history. You you think you're like a thug or something. You act like you're out of love and hip hop, and then tell me, a Puerto Rican from the island, that I'm a lesser caliber Puerto Rican than you, or I'm a lesser Puerto Rican than you, and that you are more than me, when you don't know the history, you don't know the culture, you don't know anything. You just be waving a flag, you know, and know nothing about the culture and don't even act like you're part of the culture. There's nuance to each and every case that happens with this, you know, and not all of us. And I will even say this: there's Puerto Ricans in the island que son tan y tan estadistas and tan y tan sellouts that I wouldn't even, tell them they deserve to be called Puerto Rican when they spit in the face of everything that has to do with our culture, and they're born and raised on the island. So it's really a case by case basis for me. You really need to judge the individual, how they act, how they embrace the culture on this one.
Now, me being a New Yorker, right? And because I know that we have such a large population in New York that of Puerto Ricans, I can say, right? Because this is something that I know for a fact. A lot of Puerto Ricans from New York will go to the island, right? And it's like what you said. And this is something that's been happening for years, right? Like this is not something that's new. You know, a lot of people within the diaspora feel like it is a badge of honor, right? Like they are the shit because they grew up over here in the States, and they will go with that guille to Puerto Rico, right? And then they'll call people that, are doing things that are culturally local to them, that are part of the culture and everything, but that this New Yorican doesn't have any clue about. And they will tell them, like, tú eres un fucking jíbaro. Tú eres bien cafre. Tú eres esto, tú eres eso. Not understanding the way that culture is lived on and how it's represented on the island and still fail to understand that Puerto Ricans in New York, Puerto Ricans in Orlando, Puerto Ricans in Chicago, we've created our own subculture within the diaspora, right? Because this is something that I've been saying for years, and this is even before these topics started coming up on social media. A Puerto Rican from New York is very different from a Puerto Rican from Florida. A Puerto Rican from Florida is different from a Puerto Rican in Chicago. A Puerto Rican in Cali son diferente, right? Because not only are we creating our own subculture, we're also assimilating to what is the dominant culture wherever we are from, right? So in New York,
And they're also an
obviously,
endangered species.
exactly. In New York, Black culture is very much a part, like it is New York City culture, right? And we assimilated to that. We adopted certain things from Black culture while also creating our subculture of being Puerto Rican. You know, this is why maybe the communities in Orlando and Kissimmee and Point Siena, Central Florida, those places are called Little Puerto Rico for the simple fact that that is the closest culturally that we have to certain things on the island, right? But New York, Chicago, Cali, Colorado, shit, hasta los que están en Minnesota, because aparentemente hay un montón ahora en Minnesota también, la cultura de allá es bien diferente. And I'm continually trying to stress this to Puerto Ricans that are part of the diaspora. If you are wanting to connect with the culture, if you're wanting to learn, do so with an open mind, but leave that New York chip that's on your shoulder, right? Because all New Yorkers, I don't give a fuck what nobody says. All New Yorkers, we carry a chip on our shoulder, right? We gotta prove we from this block, we from this hood. I ate a chopped cheese before it was cool. My mother used to get us fucking government cheese and the fucking groceries from the wick and shit. We have that chip on our shoulder. When we get to the island and we want to talk to people to learn, we got to get rid of that shit, because only then, right, are we're not going to be offending the people on the island. And then if they say something to us, because we're going over there humbly, right, and being open minded, these people are going to be more welcoming to us. But if I go over there and I'm like, speak fucking English because Puerto Rico is part of America, and then somebody calls me a fucking gringa, I don't have a right to be upset because I came over here being a fucking Americano. That's just it, right?
Yeah. And the fact of the matter is that people are coming, like, and the most complicated part, and this one is one that has hit close to home to me, and and a lot of them don't understand. There's a lot of Puerto Ricans that bring the biases and the prejudice of their environment back to the island, and they look at everything through an Americanized lens. And that is also part of what you're saying of the attitude that's got to change. But also, a lot of these people don't realize that you're trying to do activism to supposedly fix certain issues of the island. And in reality, what you're doing is erasing our culture and making it worse. Because, for example, there are plenty of Puerto Ricans, and this is not to deny that there isn't racism, that there isn't colorism, that there aren't issues on the island. But our racism and colorism is a different type of flavor than what it is in the mainland in the US. And we on the island have to worry in racism and colorism on very different things that are very real, but much different. We do not have to worry about police pew-pewing because of the color of your skin. You do not have to worry about driving while black. You do have to worry that there is a disproportionate rigged system that makes it harder for black people on the island to get jobs, to get welfare, to get assistance, but at the same time, it's drowned out because right now in the island, it's so bad that everybody is having the issue. Like nobody can get jobs. period, if you are from a certain class and below. Because the fact of the matter is that even if you look at the new polls, the majority of the population is poor. Doesn't matter if you're black, white, indigenous, or anything. The biggest class right now is the poor class. Like, if you combine upper and lower middle class, it's like less than 18%. It's really staggering how difficult it is for the native population to survive.
When
And
I
you
was
are not,
doing my deep dive, remember,
yeah,
my mind was blown. My mind was blown when I saw that the average income for, and I'm going to say this because that's the one that bothers me the most, Maricao. The annual salary, the average is $10,000 or less. The amount of people living below the poverty line in Puerto Rico, and people think that it's like, oh, no, las cosas son tan fácil allá. You guys have the United States backing you. It's if you don't want to work, it's because you like to be on welfare. How, Sway? How? Explícame a mí.
no. And the fact of the matter is that, welfare is supposed to work. The way that welfare is supposed to work, it's supposed to give you resources and a leg up for you to be able to manage to find a job and, eventually be independent. The problem with welfare in the island is the moment you have any type of job, even because the poverty line and the numbers are so low that even if you get something that would not be considered enough for you to pay rent and buy your own food, you're off the food stamps. You're off.
For a penny. For a penny.
Yeah.
Make a
You're,
penny over that.
yeah. You are off everything. So the system is made in Puerto Rico so that if you are able to finally get these things, because they're incredibly difficult to get, I mean, here's the thing, like, and this is a perfect example. When I worked in Puerto Rico, sometimes I could not travel to other locations and I was stuck on the island for XYZ reason, and only 2 big film productions would come a year. You know what I mean? I would apply to get unemployment, right? The representatives are trained to do everything within their power to deny it to you, okay? You could hear the frustration in their breaths when I did everything right and they had to give me the unemployment. Because if you quit, you don't qualify no matter what. If they fired you, they have to do an investigation that can take months to determine if they owe it to you or not, or what was the reason. So I would work 3 to 6 months on a production, and then people are like, oh, get another job. It's impossible to get a job. It's really hard. So in the meantime, I'm going to get unemployment. I was looked at, even by my own mother, I was looked at in shame because I would get unemployment between gigs, you know. And mind you, that back in that day, and I'm talking around 2012, 2015, and I don't think that has changed much, but it was $256 biweekly.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. $256 biweekly. Even if you did the max, that was the max. And then they had like a little incentive that they had that put it up to like 266, and they couldn't do anything with me because they're like, oh, but why did you quit? I didn't quit. And they're like, then why did they fire you? They didn't fire me. Then why don't you have a job? The production ended and they went back to the States. My contract is over, and they couldn't compute that because under that loophole, you have to give me the unemployment because I didn't quit. And I wasn't fired. I was technically laid off. So, and they get frustrated and they do every loophole for you to not get it. And the problem is that anything that you do, you are constantly monitored to look for any reason to, get you off of it. Like you have to report every couple of weeks and you have to send evidence consistently. And if you miss one of that, you sent resumes to this place, that you did this, that you did that you did this, you have to give them a list of at least 10 places a week or something like that. And if you don't, they cut you off. If you forgot to do it, they cut you off. So the island has a stigma, these being handouts, when it's essentially your taxpayers' money. So you have this mix of it is a stigma. You should be ashamed for using these aids. And at the same time, they have convinced the population, the entire population, to attack and make the people that use these aids the enemy. And you using food stamps, you asking for unemployment. Other Puerto Ricans in the island are going to treat you that you are the problem. You are worse than the corrupt politicians stealing millions. I was worse than Jennifer Gonzalez and Ricky Rosselló for
Mm-hmm.
applying for unemployment and taking $266 bi-weekly. I was a worse person than the corrupt politicians that have stolen millions. Make it make sense how a person taking $260 a month, $266 bi-weekly is worse than Jennifer Gonzalez or Ricky Rosselló. Make it make sense. But that's how the Puerto Rican of the island thinks.
The craziest thing for me, right, is just that I don't know how we got here, right? I honestly did not know when, how, why, what led to us getting to this point, right? Because we didn't all wake up one day. I know, right? Collectively, Puerto Ricans did not just be like, you know what? We're the true Puerto Ricans. Everybody from the island se tienen que salir. We didn't collectively do that, right? Neither did the Puerto Ricans from Chicago or anywhere else, right? Our families, right? Like my grandmother, my grandfather, when they came over here from Puerto Rico, because they came in the early 60s, right? At least from mommy's side. They came for better opportunities, right? My grandfather, he had his carrera. Obviously, there wasn't anything that he could do in Puerto Rico when it came to that. So him and my grandmother, who was a teenager, like she was 14, 15 years old when they had gotten married, came over to the States. They moved to Jersey. My grandfather got his job. He opened up a bar. He did a whole bunch of things. They had 3 kids. Great. Back then, it wasn't so much like abandonaste la isla. It was, yo entiendo por qué ustedes se tienen que ir, porque quieren mejor, quieren hacer una carrera, quieren más de lo que te está ofreciendo la isla, right? And my mom and her 2 siblings, from my grandparents, ended up at one point, so my grandmother could work and my grandfather could work. They ended up going back to live on the island with my great grandmother, right? And the extreme poverty that my mother has spoken about her growing up on the island, right? That whatever my grandmother sent to my great grandmother, eso la cansaba mucho because it was the 60s. Una peseta, you could feed all 3 kids, right? That's what my mother would tell me. She's like, oye, con una peseta yo iba para el kiosco y me compraba una tostada, un cafecito, unos dulces, un bombón, lo que sea, y estábamos de lo más bien, right? And so many people forget, right? And that's always one of the things I like to tell people. Like, I remember going to Puerto Rico in my great grandmother's house, and we had a fucking letrina, right? Then when we got the plumbing and everything like that, it still wasn't a part of the house. We literally had to go out the kitchen, walk up these rinky steps, and over there was our bathroom, right? And people don't believe that because a lot of the propaganda that's being spread is that no, Puerto Rico, like look at Dorado, look at Guaynabo, mira Vieques, mira la gente que viven ahí, mira los malls que las siempre están llenas de la gente. ¿Cómo que ustedes me van a decir a mí que en Puerto Rico hay pobreza and the people that live in the most impoverished places on the island, right, which is Maricao, which was Maricao is always one that always sticks for me because and I don't have my notebook in front of me. But there's so many places on the island that are living in a turmoil, but nobody goes to those places, right? Maricao está en las montañas. Cuando pasa una tormenta o un huracán o lo que sea, guess what? Those roads are impassable, right? And then I've been on panels and I've been in lives where I've heard people talk about the struggles. I cannot compare living in the projects, right? Growing up in the projects, having the block of government cheese, my mother, going through the shelter system in New York City with us and everything. I cannot compare that to someone being on the island and not having water for months, not having light for months, having done a compra and it took all their cupones. And guess what? A fucking storm hit and they lost power. And now the whole compra that they bought se dañó y se fue a la mierda. I cannot compare my struggles and make it seem that my struggles make me more Puerto Rican or to use them to invalidate somebody else's struggles, right? La tía mía putting, when my cousin was there in la Universidad de PR, la tía mía estaba trabajando she was a butcher. She done lost a finger, cut the fucking maimed out the wazoo working at that job, and still would tell me, like, I make some change that I still have to get food stamps. She's like, you come here, you want to come home, you want to pay homage to your homeland, you want to connect with your people, but every day it's figuring out how am I going to survive? How am I going to put food on the table? How am I going to make ends meet? How am I going to keep this house? How am I going to keep my bills on? What happens if I lose power? We can't compare the two, right? And I think one of the things that is fueling the disconnect is the fact that we are continually trying to one up the other Puerto Ricans with our oppression Olympics. We can't do that. My struggle is very different, even from another Puerto Rican who grew up in New York, right? We were we were hood rich, right? I'm not gonna lie, we were hood rich. My mother made sure that we had everything, and then some, because she didn't want us to grow up with the same poverty that she grew up with in Puerto Rico. But then I know that for certain things, I could have been better off than someone whose parent only worked a minimum wage job, a parent who, was on substances, right? Our struggles are each unique, but it does not make us better or less than another Puerto Rican. Welcome to my TED Talk.
Exactly. Yes. And it's just that. And como puertorriqueño de la isla, and especially that I have seen all the sides of my people when I was on the island. You know what I mean? Y nosotros desafortunadamente nos gusta coger los malos hábitos, the bad habits that American has and American culture has, and we love to amplify it.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and that's part of the history of how we got here. And you look at it also in the little things of the island. And I know that I'm kind of deviating a bit, but for example, how you go on the island and you see like that the signs in the roads and everything are in kilometers, that the gasoline is in liters and everything. Like there was a time when the USA said they were going to change to the metric system and never did.
Mm-hmm.
We tried to do it first. We amplify everything that the Americans try to do. We try to do it in an amplified sense. And it's part of the reason of what we got here, because we as a culture have ingrained trying to prove ourselves to the USA, even at a subconscious level. So if the USA hates the poor and tries to villainize them and tries to make them out the villain, we're going to amplify that even more. Because, and that is the paradox that I always lived on the island. The fact that we had this sense of community. And even though we still help out the people in need and have this sense of community that I never seen in the US, I have also never seen a people that, and make it make sense. How can we be so helpful and so like, extending the hand in a time of crisis and in a time of need, like Huracán Maria, but at the same time, we hate our poor and villainize them and and drag them through the mud more than the Americans do. Nosotros en muchos casos nos hemos convertido en nuestro peor enemigo porque tenemos una población de 3 millones, ¿verdad? Pero entonces we love making blanket statements de todo el mundo en el caserío. Cómo ellos tienen el bling bling, cómo ellos tienen tenis nuevas, cómo ellos tienen cosas más caras que yo me jodo trabajando y qué sé yo ni qué. Like, don't be disingenuous. You know why that person got it. But just because that person got it in the hood, in questionable ways, doesn't mean that everybody that comes from there is getting it that way. And if you put it statistically, en una población de 3 millones, the people that are doing that illegally, the people that are abusing the system are statistically far less than what you see in the United States and other demographics, especially in the poverty places. You know what I mean? Y la realidad es que si nosotros tuviéramos más accesibilidad a programas de entrenamiento, a trades, and more open jobs, and actually help people out. Porque si entonces quieres culpar a la gente abusando del sistema, ¿por qué se te hace bien difícil culpar a los políticos que hacen el sistema así a propósito para tener una gente completamente dependiendo del sistema de mantengo para ganarse los votos y continuar su corrupción? Because in reality, the ones that want people there en el caserío, comprándose las Nike, comprándose las cosas para que la clase trabajadora se quede viéndolo como enemigo, son los mismos políticos. Los mismos políticos los quieren ahí so that you can point the finger at them and they can be the blame of everything. Pero no, yo no voy a ver eso y yo el año que viene voy a votar por Jennifer González otra vez.
Exacto.
Make it make
Exacto.
sense.
It's the disconnect even from over here, right? Because if you can give someone that is uneducated, someone that is, living in poverty, if you can give them a common enemy, ya, tú le comiste el cerebro and now you have an acolyte, right? Because this is what it is, that these people convert into becoming acolytes for these politicians, not understanding that the main issue on the island is the corruption, right? But you will have, again, people that are uninformed on how politics work on the island will say, bueno, ustedes votaron por ella. Oh, well, so sad, too bad. But then they'll be the same ones over here complaining about the shit that the Cheeto is doing. And I'm like, okay, use the same logic for over here. The people voted for him, and this is why shit is happening the way it is. And I'm like, and you have to look at it when you're looking at the percentages of who voted for her. I think it was you that you had told me that this was the first time that the Independista Party had actually gotten votes, right? And that Jennifer Gonzalez only won by a very small margin because not everyone was on board with what she was proposing, right? And she was like, okay, well, this one's 34%, this one's 33%, this one's 32%. Bueno, the people have spoken, the one with 34%, la que era gobernadora, here you go, Jennifer Gonzalez.
Yeah.
And go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. You go ahead.
It's not knowing how things work over there, right? And I always bring up these conversations because I've spoken now, right, with people that live on the island, people that know how the government is working on the island. I was speaking to a woman a couple of weeks ago, and I'm like, I want to buy a house in Puerto Rico. My main thing is, yes, I want to go out there. I want to rent. For me, coming from Florida, right, and that I'm a New Yorker, yes, the rent on the island is fucking dirt cheap, right? So for me, it's like, oh shit, I can go out there, I can live over there, I can save money and buy a house cash, right? And this woman, she told me very clearly, she's like, unless you have connections or you have big money to talk, it's going to be very hard for you to buy a house here because they don't want Puerto Ricans to come back. They want these major corporations to be the ones buying up the island, turning them into resorts, turning them into Airbnbs so that our people have no choice but to leave because they're being priced out. They cannot afford. I'm here thinking, oh shit, a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, que viene con la furnitura 1,200 al mes. En Guaynabo, puñeta, no me importa que me van a llamar a mí una Guaynabicha. That's exactly where I'm going, right? But when I look at what people are making on the island, now I'm like, fuck, this is why more people are leaving. Because
Yeah.
making $10 an hour, you can't afford a rent for $1,200. You
No,
can't.
that's like you trying to afford a 4-bedroom house for almost $4,000 just with one person in the house working at Amazon for $16 an hour.
Exactly.
It's not going to happen. You know, it's really the same, and a lot of people from the outside don't see it because all they see is the cheap rent. And that's when you get another diaspora disconnect. You know, and it's just that it's we for some reason love infighting with each other. Y por eso es que mi mamá decía, ¿quién es el más que me da? ¿Quién me ama fuera del tiesto? Tú sabes, esa competencia que nosotros tenemos eh, it's, it's, it's kind of very unique to me, because I have seen infighting between other Latino cultures and everything, but Puerto Rican one is pretty unique, especially when you have that diaspora element to it. You know, and what I kind of also find it funny is that it's Puerto Ricans in their own way are the perfect example of Darwinist evolution in its own way, like in the Galapagos Islands, like in those documentaries where you see how one species of lizard divided into two, and then there's these land lizards, and then there's these aquatic iguanas. You know what I mean? That's the diaspora right there. You know, the ocean iguana and the land iguana that looks a little bit more orangey. We developed our own cultures. We develop our own things. We have split, like you said earlier, into these subcultures that are slowly becoming their own unique flavor of things. And I feel that in our own way, we need to validate and embrace both of them as their own thing without taking anything away from each other.
This is the reason why, like, I don't identify as a New Rican, right? I've always been Puerto Rican, right? It doesn't matter what's the same, Boricua está en la luna, right? So me having to other myself from the rest of the Puerto Ricans has never really sat well with me, right? Because at the end of the day, I'm Puerto Rican, right? And you'll have people now question it like, oh no, you're of Puerto Rican descent because, your mom is Puerto Rican, your dad is Puerto Rican, you weren't born on the island. I'm like, for me growing up, for my family growing up, for my friends growing up, there wasn't any differentiation. It wasn't, oh, you're of descent, but you're not Puerto Rican. This is something that has become the conversation because of the internet, right? Where I've had people try to pull my Puerto Rican card because I don't use adobo. I'm sorry. When I learned how to cook, my grandfather was sick and he taught me how to cook sin usar sal, right? And I had to use more of the natural seasonings and everything like that because of my grandfather's health, right? My mother doesn't use adobo. I use sazón, yeah. I use my mojo, yo tengo mi sofrito, yo tengo mi ajo molido. Pero me not using adobo took away my Puerto Rican card, right?
And it shouldn't. And it shouldn't.
Wait,
Because, vamos a ser sinceros, a mí se me acabó el adobo Goya hace meses, aquí en las Filipinas. Y cada vez que my in-laws and my Filipino family from my girlfriend se sientan aquí, es como que, oh, porque ya están acostumbrados al adobo. They're accustomed of how I cook. Es como que, oh, you say you ran out of adobo, but it still tastes Puerto Rican. Oh, it's in my blood.
exactly.
All I need is the individual spices, and I can manually make it here at home. It's always been a
Exacto.
taste, you know.
Like for me, adobo was literally we only used adobo when my grandmother used to cut me up cucumbers and she would sprinkle adobo on them for me. Right? That was my snack. Right? That was my go-to snack, cucumbers with adobo. I got my Puerto Rican card pulled because I didn't know that Puerto Ricans had their own form of arepas. Right? And I'm like, I tore a new one into my mom. Mommy, what do you mean that Puerto Ricans make arepas? She was like, yeah, we make our own version of arepas. She's like, but I never liked them, so I never made them for you guys. And then like she started telling me about all these other things like sopa de pan, you know, sopa de salchichón is my fucking favorite. I don't care what nobody says, right? A veces cuando no podía hacer sofrito cuando yo vivía en Houston, yo compraba el sofrito de Goya. No tenía más remedio, right? And it's gotten to be so normalized now that we're consistently pulling people's cards and trying to make them prove that they're fucking Puerto Rican. I'm sorry. At the end of the day, I am not anyone to pull someone's Puerto Rican card, and nobody better try to pull my Puerto Rican card, right? Because I may not be able to tell you a specific spot in Puerto Rico, right, where this happened or that happened, or I can remember it from memory, but I can tell you that in Aguadilla, we used to catch the fucking sea urchins for my grandfather to cook them for us, or that we used to catch the legaltijos and, you know, put them in the fucking rotting tree so the fire ants could eat them. And I got stuck in between the house and the Latina because I was fat, and my grandfather had to come and pull me out so then the damn snails wouldn't get on me. I know what it's like to, you know, climb fucking los palos. So tú no me vas a decir a mí que yo soy menos puertorriqueña porque a ti te da los fucking cojones, and now you have this fucking quota or this checklist in your mind to dictate who is who, right? I don't know who, yo no sé qué cojones, quién le fucking echó la cabeza con tanto fucking aire que esta gente piensan ahora que son the arbiter of who is Puerto Rican and who is not.
Exactly. Y por más que quisiera escuchar tus historias de sapo de letrina por las próximas 3 horas, it's 3:45. Let's give the opportunity of people, if they want to come up, to come up. Y si no, pues continúa con tus historias de letrina until we wrap it up, you know.
Listen, I was very traumatized living in Puerto Rico at some points, okay? I got a flying roach flew at my face one time and hit me in the eye, and I accused my aunt of throwing a rock at me. So there's that.
Buenos días, mi gente.
What up, though,
Qué
bitch?
nice.
Buenos días.
Es
Just
más,
trying to do your welcome, man. How you doing, man? I know you
Well-
welcome, bro. My bad.
es más, porque como estuve con mi sobrino en un maratón de Rambo, you know, I want to quote Sylvester Stallone in Last Blood, in the last Buenos Dias. You know?
Speaking of a fat getting stuck somewhere because of being fat as a child, I got stuck on a fence once when I was a kid. They had to call the fire department, High Bridge Projects.
What the hell? Listen, I was a roly poly. My uncle made a theme song, the one from Puerto Rico. He was like, rolling, 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 teacher will be rolling. And that was always the song that he sang when he saw me because I was a little butterball. So
Yeah, it was embarrassing, but now I can make fun of it. I got jokes now, so it's okay.
has anyone tried to pull that card on you that you're not Puerto Rican enough or
Oh, they do it all the time.
ah
Especially when they hear me talk. They be like, I thought you was black. I'm like, what? Nah, I'm Puerto Rican. I never do that New York stuff. That's fake.
facts. Facts. Now what you hear now that even the older generation has put like a more Spanish flair. son Neoyorquinos. No son New Yorkers, son Neoyorquinos. And I'm like, ¿cuál es la fucking diferencia? Eres puertorriqueño, te criaste en Nueva York, es la misma fucking mierda.
New Rican was always supposed to be an extension to the Puerto Rican culture, not its own identity. It's a subculture, obviously, yeah, because we adopt and assimilate to the New York culture that's happening. But it was never meant to be, oh, now you're a New Rican, you're no longer a Puerto Rican, so you don't have to identify as such.
That part.
But then you want to be the real Boricua.
Ah,
I'm the
you know,
true and only Boricua.
no, the funniest thing, right? Because I understand, right? We've had this conversation before when we're talking to people and, they want to know their ancestry. They're doing their DNA. They're doing, they're getting in touch with the parts of them that if they do have Taíno ancestry, they're reconnecting with that, which I love. But one of the things that I'm seeing now is that there are a lot of people, right? Because I'm not going to say all of them. A lot of them are now on this Taíno superiority type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And they're like, we're the only ones that can call ourselves Boricua. Like, I don't care if you were born on the island for generations. If you don't have at least 10% of Taíno ancestry, this island is not yours.
Yeah,
this
where does the
island does not belong
percentage
to you.
come from? You gotta have 10%. Not 9, not
No,
8.
not
It
9.
has to be more than 10.
It has to be more than 10. Then you'll have people now also conflating their indigenous ancestry, right? Because you'll have people that come up here and they'll show you the proof, right? Like, oh yeah, this is my ancestry. But no. I'm 40%.
10.1.
I'm 40%. And I'm like,
more
puñeta.
Boricua than you because I'm 40%.
Mind you, if you look at the ancestry, nowhere does it say anywhere 40%. It's a number now that they conflated in their mind to now be the true Boricua. And I'm like, were you picked on as a child? Did you not get awards? Are you part of the participation, trophy, crowd? And now you want to feel special about yourself because now you have to other yourself, right? It's the people that are really having the identity crises are the ones that are pushing for this superiority, right? I don't have that. You don't have that. Nonsense doesn't have that. So many Puerto Ricans that we speak to on the regular do not have this identity crisis where they have to act like they're superior than anyone else.
Yeah, I don't know where people are coming from. Hey, Fortaleza, I really wanted you to come up and, speak because you had a lot to say in the comments. I wanted to hear your perspective on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I invited him, but he already made up his mind.
Oh, that's fine. Stop commenting.
Yeah.
Stay muted.
I
Because people always use that argument to, well, why was people able to afford Nikes and my family wasn't able to? Bro, I remember spending hours and days in the welfare office just trying to get, a little bit of government assistance in the Bronx, New York, and they'd be like, no, you can't have it. And I look at people sitting there and they're wearing Nikes and Jordans and they walking out happy because they got their little $150 in cash and they $300 in food stamps and they got the booklet because when I was going, there was the booklet and then we transitioned to the debit card and you felt fancy because you had your mom's picture on the debit card and you were able to go to the store and the Aki or the Papi, they knew so you could get credit and your mama get mad because you got credit at the store and she's like, why are you spending all my food stamp money? And you're like, because it's mine, because the only reason you got it is because of me. Because you're a smart ass, because you grew up in the U.S. and you knew how the system was working and you was learning because you was going to the food stamp office. And I never sat there and was like, well, why they wearing Nike?
And I will add this. This is aside from a live. This is a podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. So we're not here for an echo chamber. We're not here to attack anybody. As if you want to come up, as long as you don't talk over anybody else, we will let you say our piece.
Disrespect anyone.
Exactly, or disrespect anyone. You can state your opinion, but this isn't an echo chamber. We actually want to hear the different perspectives. So as long as, again, you don't disrespect and talk over anybody, We will wait our turn. You wait your turn and speak each other out. You're welcome to come up. You know,
Going once, going twice, going chicken soup and rice.
Sopa de salchichon was wild though. Hey yo,
Listen,
we called it sopa de fideo and salchichon. I don't know. I
it's
don't
that my grandmother has never called it sopa de fideo con salchichón. It's always been sopa de salchichón. Con un arroz blanco
And if they
y
put
un aguacate.
and if they put the rice inside of it, it'd be extra
Oh,
wild.
yes. Listen, to this day, my mother makes the best sopa de camarones. I don't care what nobody says.
It's so
Mommy makes it
crazy.
worse.
I cannot eat. I love shrimp. I could eat shrimp all day, every day. And I saw pavo de camarones. I can't eat it. It makes me
Oh,
nauseous.
I love it. I love it. And I used to love it more when my mom used to get like rice from Puerto Rico, right? Because the canilla is long grain rice. The rice from Puerto Rico, it's either the short grain or the medium grain rice. Y tiene un gusto más diferente. Oh my God. And it would make it taste so much fucking better. Like,
That's that rico rice.
yes. Listen, when I came to Florida, I was so excited because
Yeah.
they had it here. They didn't have it in Texas. So I was like, oh, the yellow bag.
How many Puerto Ricans you know living in Texas?
Like 5.
I walk outside here in Florida, I run into 5 Puerto Ricans. I feel like,
Dead ass.
damn.
Dead ass.
I will also add a very petty reason as to why I am for separation from the US. And it's because when I was a child and my father like kicked us out of the house and forced us into New Jersey, you know, my mom bought, because if you're on the island, you know that the lobsters in Puerto Rico are drastically different from the lobsters that you eat in the States. You know, they don't have those little classic cartoony claws like you see in the logo of Red Lobster or whatever. You know, they have these huge antennas and you don't really see like big claws. So it's the first time that I got to try one of those. And my mom bought one, got it prepared and everything. And I got the worst food poisoning out of that lobster that I had in my entire life. The food poisoning was so bad that up until this day, I am still allergic to crustaceans and I can no longer eat shrimp. I can no longer eat crab. I can no longer eat lobster. I am deprived from all Puerto Rican seafood thanks to America. Okay?
America.
America did it.
America.
Wearing Nikes too.
I don't listen. I'm gonna be honest with you. I had one bad reaction to some crabs that my grandfather had fished one day, and I got in a rash from like head to toe. And you know what? I had to pop a Benadryl so I can still enjoy conch, so I can enjoy shrimp, so I can enjoy clams, urchins, shark, eel, whatever freaking crustacean and sea life that my grandfather could catch, we would eat it. So I'm like, I'll risk it. I'm sorry.
And that's exactly how I grew up too. Because te está picando Benedri. Está bien. Un poquito de Benedri.
Facts.
Con que te pica, pues tómate una Benadryl y ráscate, coño.
Yeah, literally. Literally. No me venga a decir que tú no te vas a comer eso porque 2 semanas atrás tú tuviste an allergic reaction. ¿Te lo va a comer o te va a quedar ahí sentado?
Or you get the coge Benedri y no te rasques. Ponte Vicks.
Ponte Vicks. Tú sabes que Vicks cura todo.
Ajá, si te está picando, ponte Vicks.
And I'm not gonna lie, like my grandmother also gave me other things, right? Like if you had a pimple or you had a burn, ponte pasta de diente.
Yep.
That was it.
Yep.
Ponte pasta de diente is gonna cure it with no problem.
That one never worked. You know,
Or butter and mantequilla.
Mantequilla con sal, right? So like whenever my kids are clumsy like their mom. So whenever they would fall and they'd get a chichón or whatever, eso era rapidito. Mantequilla con sal. When the baby had the hiccups, you are sucking on a piece of string and putting it on the baby's forehead so the hiccups could go away.
No, the cure all for like burns and pimples and all that stuff at home was es como que te quemaste. Tienes un barrito, you have a pimple. Vuelvo ahora, vuelvo ahora. You would see my mom grab a machete and go to the backyard. You know. Yeah.
Y que cortar la sábila.
La sábila. Exacto.
I'm not gonna lie, mommy used to eat sábila, and that would help her lose weight.
Yeah. No, what I would love is that sometimes it was like this 6-inch little stub of sábila, like only 6 inches, but she would take the full blown machete. Like
I'm sorry. What's sabiola in English? My bad.
Aloe. Aloe.
Oh, aloe. Oh,
yeah.
okay. Y'all see, shit. I know Spanish too, y'all. I'm not no problem, but I was like, sabiola. I've never heard that word. My mom called it aloe.
No.
I didn't know that sábila was aloe till I became an adult. I just knew it was sábila.
Aloe.
No. Let me tell you something, and this is why I don't judge anybody for not knowing it, because you know that I learned my English in New Jersey, and then we came back to Puerto Rico, and then my mom had an emergency, and she always used me as her interpreter, even when I was a child. And it's like at one point, I remember that I had to learn this the hard way in an emergency, because she was on the phone, and you know that back in the day, the phones were like wired, like the cable and everything. So you scream to ask a question with the phone and your neck bent in an awkward, you know. And she's like, "Mira," and I was actually in the bathroom, like peeing, and it's like, "Mira, ¿cómo es que se dice sábila en inglés?" Sábila, ¿cómo se dice que se? And I'm like panicking, looking around, and then all of a sudden I see a green shampoo bottle, and I pick it up, and it has the photo of la sábila, the picture of it, because it says with aloe. Okay, it's like I learned it on the fly, and people believe that I already knew it. You know, it was one of those moments where you're like learning it on the spot when they're asking you, just looking at a bottle of shampoo to learn that it's aloe. Yeah.
And then they went around like, no, nonsense, inteligente.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, he's so sweet.
No, inteligente. Tiene IQ como Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah. Sí. Él, él va a ser el próximo Washington. Tú lo vas a ver ahí. Primer presidente de algo. No sé qué carajo va a ser, pero va a ser el primero de algo, como Washington.
You was picking up that I was putting down like that.
Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like we've had these conversations, right, so many times, right? And it's hard to focus on the disconnect, right? When we know so many things are currently happening in the island, right? We had people over there without water. We're dealing with the constant food insecurity, the abject poverty. And I feel like because so many of us don't know and aren't informed, they can make the whole identity thing their main focus. Right. And I think like, yeah, we can go and we can bridge the divide and heal the disconnect. But at the same time, we have to want to work on things for the island. Right. But you have so many people here that are so ultra Americanized, that they want everything from here for Puerto Rico, not understanding that it's the place that we grew up at, the place that we call home, the place that we love, that we wear our flag so fucking proudly, right? Because that's one thing I'm always gonna say. Whenever I talk about wanting to settle down, I'm like, I want a man who will love me the same way that we love our fucking flag, right? Because you can't tell a shit about our flag. I'm like, if we can translate that love, that pride into actually working on things for the island, I think that we're gonna be better off. Pero
And if
a
you
lot
can
of people,
translate that love and that pride toward Miley que te está diciendo te extraño en los comentarios. You know?
hi Riley, hi baby, love you, besos.
Yeah. Go on.
That's how we can help, right? That's how we can bridge the divide, right? Because instead of us focusing on what sets us apart and what makes us different, que el arroz con salchicha es mejor que el arroz con jamonilla, que esta persona nunca comió arroz con tocino, o no sabe qué carajo es una serenata de bacalao, instead of focusing on those things, we should focus on what unites us, right? And I'm not gonna say like the sayings, right? Because honestamente mi mamá nunca en sus 61 años de vida, nunca me dijo que va a pagar algo con los pelos de la rica, right? My mother has never said that. Other Puerto Rican moms I've heard have said that. Mine did not, right? No one in my family. Pero I think we're too focused. And when I say we, I'm saying this as a whole. I'm not just saying us on this live and the panel, people within our circle. Us as a whole, the entire diaspora, those living in Japan, those living in Hawaii, those living in Cali, los cinco que viven en Texas. If we were to focus more so on what connects us and what unites us and what we have, we wouldn't have this disconnect. And we can focus on getting the ain't shit people out of fucking Puerto Rico. We can focus on us doing our pilgrimage and moving back home and helping our people, right? Because one thing that we have to be honest about too, right? As much as Puerto Ricans do exemplify a sense of community, we have those within our community that are mala fe, right? Because when I've talked about, doing something like what Madani is doing in New York with the government sponsored grocery stores, or us, doing co-ops with other farms and figuring out how to better the economy. I know, even within my people, right? And as much as we love helping other people and we will give the shirt off our backs and we will hide people from the freezer people coming around and we're welcoming and everything, we still have a lot of those within our community that'll be like, yo trabajé para lo que yo tengo porque tengo que ayudar a la vecina que no tiene dinero para comer. O porque yo me debo de preocupar que si las escuelas la están cerrando cuando yo no tengo hijos. We have people like that in every community, right? Regardless if it's New York, regardless if it's Puerto Rico, we have people like that. But if the people that want to see better, that actually love the island, right? Because I know so many fucking Puerto Ricans in New York that were only Puerto Rican for the month of June to fucking show the flag off, to say, yes, I have a whole parade. Yes, I have a whole festival. Different boroughs are throwing parades for my fucking people. And then the 11 months out of the year, they're not anything, right? They're just a
And they
fucking New
was
Yorker.
waving the wrong flag.
Facts, because the people that I be seeing that are saying that they're Puerto Rican and then put the Cuban flag, a no saber. Esos son otros 10, right?
Let's forgive the ones that might be colorblind.
No, not. They
I don't
shot
think so.
somebody.
It's like they only see in grayscale or black and white, and all
I
of
mean,
a
if you're
sudden
gonna
it's
use the emoji, all you literally have to do is type in Puerto Rico, right? And it's gonna give you the Puerto Rican flag.
no,
So
yeah, but no, not those. I'm talking about somebody that went and genuinely like purchased a flag, you know, off of randomly, and you know, all of a sudden, oh, it's not a Puerto Rican flag, you know. But emojis, no excuse.
exactly, that's what I'm saying, right? And I think we're so set. And again, when I say we, I'm using this just to cover the diaspora as a whole, right? Like not anyone specifically. I feel like instead of us focusing, right? Like I'm never gonna negate someone's a bit, the fact that someone is Puerto Rican because they don't know how to speak Spanish. Will I encourage them to speak Spanish or learn Spanish? Yes, right? Because I'm a firm believer that you have to know where you came from. You have to know the struggles of the people before you, the people that continually lived there. Yeah, your grandma, your grandpa, your bisabuela, if you still have her, which you're so fucking lucky. You can ask these questions once they're here and they learned English. But I'm like, the stories of your tios and your tias that stood on the island, you want to be able to talk to them and learn what they did, learn the traditions, learn the culture, immerse yourself. Don't only want to learn Spanish because you want to listen, you want to sing along to fucking Bad Bunny and Raúl Alejandro. right? Like I want people to actually want to connect with the culture. Don't come and tell me because you grew up over here in Texas and you're gonna look at me eating corned beef con amarillo y arroz blanco, tú me vas a decir que eso es comida de perro, right? Because tú no te
No,
criaste en eso.
no, that's not comida de perro. That's dinner.
That's dinner. That's one of my favorite
That's a
dishes.
Well,
5 course meal right there.
Facts.
well, over here I have a debate. Porque acá en la Filipina, that's breakfast.
Bueno, you know what? Let's bridge the gaps between the diaspora and let's join the Philippines and let's all bring it together then. Because if we all put un huevo frito on it, we live
Facts.
No,
good then.
Yo, for
I
like
will
2
make.
weeks straight, I've been eating huevo frito con papa frita. And
I,
it's so nostalgic. I'm sorry, nonsense. It's
no,
so
go ahead.
nostalgic to my childhood, you know?
Yeah.
No, now I'm done. I'm sorry.
I will make white rice, corned beef and fried eggs, and the Filipinos will look at me like, "Why are you eating breakfast and dinner?" It's like this is dinner, you know. And I know that I'm deviating a little bit, but it's like today there were the equivalent of las fiestas patronales over here in the Philippines. So we kind of went out to like, join the culture because they call it a fiesta and they use the same wording and everything. And I had to hold myself back because it's like it was a moment that I tried not to laugh because it was weird for me. So I had no choice but to act super extra friendly because it's like, they're like, "Do you want lasagna?" And I look at the lasagna. Lasagna. You Filipinos call this lasagna? Yes, lasagna. Ven aquí, puñeta, dame un abrazo. Ustedes son hermosos como ustedes hablan, porque no te quiero insultar riéndome en tu cara por decir lasagna. Okay. So it was like, it was, I learned something new today. Filipinos call it lasagna. They pronounce the G in lasagna.
Interesting.
Oh, so the G's don't move in silence. That's crazy. I like that. But bridging the gap, how we gonna do it in the diaspora? And that's why I appreciate that y'all are taking the time out because you're not asking when are we gonna do it. You're not asking what steps can we take. You're just straight up. How are we gonna bridge the gap? Come on, come on here. Let's talk. Everyone's open to the panel. State your opinion. Where y'all at? Come on, let's bridge the gap. Everyone wants to bridge the gap. Well, we're here.
The thing
Me and
is,
nonsense are here.
the thing
Yeah.
that I feel like a lot of people talk about wanting to bridge the gap, but don't actually want to, right? Because you have to, we know the public education system in the United States, right? It's not teaching us the history of Puerto Rico. A lot of us are learning that once into adulthood, right? Even into towards middle age, right? Because these are not things that were shared with us, you know? And I think that for a lot of us, having to admit that we don't know and being able to ask questions and have to be humble about it and be open to listening, learning, you know, to a lot of people do not want to do the work for that. Right? It's like I'm Puerto Rican, this is how the fuck I am. Take it or fucking leave it. You're not gonna tell me that I'm less than, but you know what? I might be a little bit better than you because I grew up in New York City or I grew up in Chicago. Right? That is one of the biggest issues that I am seeing. That is one of the biggest issues that we are not being humble about it and we're not extending the olive branch and are asking people, hey, help me learn. That's the first step. We have to kind of let go whatever preconceived notions we may have about what the culture is or that we know the culture inside and out when we don't and reaching out that hand and be like, "Hey, I'm coming to you humbly. Please teach me. Don't belittle me," right? Because that's one thing I hate when people try to belittle others because they don't know or they are uninformed for whatever reason. Don't belittle someone, but I need people on this end to be humble about it. You cannot go on with that chip on your shoulder. You can't go over there like you know what the fuck is best for the island and you step on the island twice. You know, you don't know what's going on actively there. You don't know the news reports. You're not watching the news. You're going by what if someone on a fucking TikTok video said, and now you think that that shit is law. We have to stop that. That's the first step, at least in my opinion.
I mean, it is the first step. And we have to do that and then step it up. And if we got to learn from somebody, in this case, it's Michael Jackson in the Beat It video. We have to untie those wrists, drop those knives and dance together like two separate gangs, all of a sudden like breaking into dance with Michael Jackson in the middle. That's what we got to do as a people,
And it's also like immersing ourselves in things, right? Because how many people didn't know bomba, plena, the Jibaro traditions? Now you have people saying that there's no such thing as an Afro Puerto Rican. I'm sorry, if my father were alive, he would very fucking much, go against that, because my father was a black Puerto Rican that, that his Afro added like 4 or 5 inches to his height, right? Because that shit was miraculous, you know?
I didn't see my mom relaxing her hair because she wasn't black. You know what I'm saying? Like,
exactly.
buscame a relaxer, the CVS. And I had to go buy the relaxer with the little black girl on the box because mommy needed to fit the quota of civilization around her. Because
exactly.
And I'll be like, damn, ma, because now that she's 64, now she appreciates, her blackness more because she grew up now appreciating it, herself and being okay with herself and having a son who's be like, nah, my mom's black. My mom is this. My mom taught me this and that. Now she appreciates herself more. And I don't have no melanin. I'm white.
I know. When you sent me the picture, I was like, is the melanin in the room with you? I was like, because we about to say shade.
When I'm in that corporate meeting, I'm Puerto Rican. I'm no longer white. That's it.
Thanks.
Se acabó.
Thanks. Like, there's so many things, right? Like, there's so many things that we do that we don't know where they come from. Why do we kiss the bread before we throw it away, right? Because I don't eat the butt of the bread, but I kiss it and I throw it away, right? Because that was something my grandma told me.
Why do we
I eat the culito. Only culito I eat.
I don't know where that comes from, right? I don't know why my grandmother had an indio, sitting behind the door in her house, right? And all the change that she would get would go to the indio.
Eso pa buena suerte.
Exacto.
Because my grandmother had one too.
Son cosas que weren't explained to us, but that we practice, right? And then when you find out, you're like, oh shit, in Puerto Rico le besan el culito antes que lo botan. Okay, that's something new. Oh, ellos hacen esto aquí. We have so much more similarities. That's what I'm saying. Like, I need people to focus on that. A mí me gusta la berenjena con bacalao. I like bacalao any which way, menos con tomate, right? Because I don't like soggy tomatoes. But I like bacalao with everything. That doesn't make me more or less anybody's Puerto Rican. A mí me gusta guanime con bacalao.
And you know what? So you have a perfect example. I don't like bacalao. I don't.
See?
No way.
I love bacalao. I'm actually going to make me some bacalaitos after I finish the podcast.
That's crazy.
I prefer chillo. I prefer chillo.
And you're a Puerto Rican who grew up on the island.
Right? Oh, and then I just found out, too, that the chillo that we get on the island is actually technically red snapper from Florida.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's just advertised as chillo.
And here's another thing, why is when you have an affair, the person that you're cheating with is a cheater?
That's the first thing I thought of. I was like, ooh, they're a red snapper.
Yeah. It makes more sense now that the plot thickens.
Yeah.
Like,
As world turns.
no, sí, es como que, te cogieron con la chilla, the red snapper. Oh, you know what it was red
You
snapper.
now it
You
ma-
know
you know what?
she
Now
was
it
red
makes sense. Now it makes sense. I don't know. I just feel like we can have these conversations, right? Until we're blue in the face. But this is one of the reasons why we're focused on creating this app so that Puerto Ricans all across the diaspora can have information right there in their hand, right? Because realistically speaking, let's be honest. How many times do we get on these panels? Do we go on lives and we're listening and le cuesta a la gente to pull up a source or to verify something? A lot of people now are going off of trust me, bro. We can't trust me, bro, with everything,
No,
right?
trust me, bro, or trust me, bro 2.0, aka ChatGPT me dijo.
Exacto.
El profesor shot PT. I can't
Or
trust.
not even que están usando ahora TikTok Tycho, que that's TikTok's AI or Gemini. And I'm like, it literally has, right? Because I use it right for helping me do research, but I am also am enough self-aware to know that I have to fact check it as well because it can still make mistakes, right? But a lot of people, when you present them with information, even when you present them with sources, they do not want to do the work to learn, right? They'd rather continue to keep the idea that they have in their mind to have anyone fight that for them, right? So I'm like, if we're here gonna do we're talking about an app to connect the diaspora, you know what? Let's have this information there. Let's have historical documents. Let's have testimonials from people within the diaspora that we can translate into English and Spanish. Let's do all these things so that at the end of the day, if certain Puerto Ricans do not want to connect and help the island, we still provided them the resources, and it wasn't the fact that we X'd them out because that's another narrative, right? And I say we again because this is just all of us. Because my view as a Puerto Rican from New York is still very different from other Puerto Ricans in New York,
Yeah.
right? Because
The ones
I
that
don't
I,
go ahead.
you don't go finish. No, finish up.
Yeah, I'm like I can appreciate New York Puerto Rican culture. I can appreciate those things, but because my situation was very unique, where I had parts where I lived on the island, where I did certain things on the island, right? My experience is a little bit more unique, and I can be a little bit more open minded to understand and possibly identify more with island Puerto Ricans, right? Because a lot of the things that they talk about, a lot of the things that they grew up with, I had that as well. Right. So I can understand me leaning more towards that because some New Yorkers just got some fucking backward ass thinking. I'm not even gonna lie. You know? So I don't wanna align with those, I'm gonna be honest. I don't wanna be friends with the one man band who thinks he's in a civil war against the entire diaspora or against all the inhabitants of the island.
Yeah.
Right?
And you
That's
know
that's
what?
me.
You know what? He probably uses Grok instead of ChatGPT or Gemini.
Yeah,
And
he
he,
sounds
I
like a
believe that.
grapper.
I believe
Yeah.
that. He definitely is a Grok user.
and those are the ones that I don't even recognize because it's like, mi abuela me dijo, I use ChatGPT. And then the other one, la nota discordante, I use Grok. It's just staring, giving him a stare, not even recognizing them, sitting them in a chair with wheels, slowly pushing them off the frame and of the group conversation. Is like, as I was saying, you know, and just pretend he never existed and he was never there. You know,
No, I
yeah,
literally
I don't deal
happened
with Grok.
upon his live last night. I could have sworn I blocked him. But apparently I blocked him from Mofongo, but not from Relleno. Right? So I happened upon his live and it was just the monologue. The monologue. Right? And it saddens me, right? Because one of the most important things for me is for our community to connect. Right? And people who are not informed or people who are just starting out on this journey to reconnect, right? Listen to him and will think that he represents all Puerto Ricans of the diaspora, right? And that either pushes people away from wanting to reconnect with people on the island, or now it insulates them into this very negative superiority complex, right? Because the first person that they interacted with on TikTok said that he is the true Boricua and he has 40% ancestry of Taíno. And exactly, what is it now? The evolved Boricua.
I
You
mean,
know,
the man is practically like 75% alcohol per volume.
Oh yeah.
75
yeah,
proof in the blood. Like he
yeah.
barely represents himself.
If
You
I'm
know.
35, he's 45.
Yes.
In the world of Google AI, where you can say you can build your chat agent. You can say, I would like to build the history, specifically Puerto Rican history, but I would only like to use factual sources that have been fact checked through peer reviews, .edus, .org, specifically to the island, and cross reference through et cetera, et cetera. And then you can go from there, and then you can get an established paper where you'll get the paper given to you, and they'll have all the citations listed for you. Where you sat there, you read the sources of the citation and made sure what you're delivering to the people is presentable because you sat there. You didn't just say, "Okay, Lulu, write me this." And that's where we're at. And that's why we have people like I am the true Boricua, because they speak to Grok, they speak to ChatGPT, they let them write the papers for them. And it's like, yeah, this is the story and this is how it goes.
And this is a public service announcement from Mofongo Diaries. We don't want to criticize people for using Google and everything, but if you're going to use Google, do it right. Even though it is not perfect, scholar.google.com does exist and filters out, does a better job at filtering out non peer reviewed articles. So please learn that this feature exists and use Google a little bit better with more responsibility. You know, don't, don't, the same way that you don't drink and drive, don't dumbass in Google. Thank you.
And Google Mofongo Diaries, currently a podcast that is streaming on Spotify, Apple, and a podcast system near you.
Thank you, Biggs. Thank you. That was beautiful.
I'm still here. I'm just trying not to pick up all the background noise in the background with the kiddos and everything like that. But I just want people, again, like whenever we talk about these things, yo no hablo porque yo me la sé toda, right? Because I am the first one to admit I am not the most knowledgeable. I am not the authority on a lot of things. But I just want people to just start opening their minds. That's it. Don't go and read War Against All Puerto Ricans and then think that you are an expert, right? Because even with that book, there are some things that are more opinion based and factual. With everything that you're reading, all the content that you're immersing yourself in, the videos that you're watching, if you're looking to reconnect, you know, don't only use that as your one and only source. One of the best things that we can do, yes, we can read these things, but guess what? Go speak to somebody. Go speak to a tia. Go speak to an uncle. Go speak to a prima. Go to the island, right? Reach out. Go to the libraries there. Go to the universities. Go start talking to people. The beautiful thing about Puerto Rico is that the government there, if I want to go speak to the mayor, the office is open. Will I be able to speak to him? Maybe not. But I have access and the possibility to do that, right? To start asking questions and start learning, right?
Here's the thing that I will also add. We are a very, very small island, but we are incredibly rich in oral traditions and oral history. And that is a side that we take for granted because historically speaking, at least on the side of the United States, they do not care to document a lot about us. You know what I mean? And this is not a jab at for example, because for example, The Daily Show, Jon Stewart, Trevor Noah, and all these people. I love those shows and everything, and they make some good points, and they are, and even though it's satire, they have some truth behind them. But even these people that we might like and everything, and it's not to say anything bad about them or anything, but for example, when it came to Hurricane Maria, when it comes to Puerto Rican issues, it's barely a sentence on the show. Even the most activist people that are very DEI, very equality, very everything, we're barely a footnote in the culture. You know what I mean? So, and this is just one example of many. So you're not going to be able to. There's a limit to what you can get from other people, other resources, other books, and it's like Mimi just said. You have to go to the island, but especially listen to the people and listen to our rich oral history and oral traditions and things that only get passed down orally, that you're not going to find in any books, that you're not going to find anywhere else unless you live in the culture, take a deep dive with it, take a plunge, and listen to the elders, listen to the wisdom. There are so many old people on the island that have so many beautiful stories, so many rich stories, so many funny stories, so many interesting stories, and historically relevant. We do not sit down with our Puerto Rican elders from the island enough and take a genuine listen to what they have to say, because some of the things that they have to say are the most beautiful things and most interesting things that you will ever hear, and laugh at the same time throughout it. And that's one of the things that we really take for granted. And all of us should like sit down and pay attention more to those people and listen to their stories and their history and what they have to say. So many things that have not been written down.
Yes, I agree. And for those of you who don't know what orally means, that's word of mouth. If you're confused, then you're listening. But that's how I uh, came to fruition with the culture. Like I grew up around two grandmothers who grew up on the island, a grandfather who grew up on the island, a father, and everything was word of mouth. What's crazy is that, you know, being Taíno, the true Boricua, like, I understood from a young age, we were a mix of a lot of things. But I didn't hear a lot of people even acknowledging Taíno growing up. I know my family did. My uncle always was Taíno. My mom was Taíno. My grandfather, Taíno. But now that I'm older, I'm seeing a lot more people do it. And it's great to see everyone starting to understand. But we can't use the things that we're learning to fight each other with. We don't want to. Bridging the gap isn't a fight, right? Yes, okay, cool. Now you know you have Taino in you. But that doesn't mean you are the true and only Boricua. That just means that you're learning now that you do have that essence in you, and it's great and it's fantastic. And why is it there? Like Nonsense said, go to your elders if you can. And if you can't, I apologize. And then, that sucks. But if you still can, anyone out there, go to your elders, listen to them. Even if they sound crazy, within that craziness, there's truth. Listen, you're going to love it. And this is where I kind of understand why knowing Spanish is important, because a lot of times our elders only speak Spanish. So how can you learn something, right? And you don't understand. You have to be able to understand what they're saying. So maybe you learning Spanish isn't, oh, because the system wants you to. It's because you want to know more about yourself. So you have to go, all right, now I need to learn Spanish so I can talk to my who only speaks Spanish, and it's the only surviving elder I have, and I want to know about my history. So she's the only one who's going to be able to tell me. But if I don't learn Spanish, I'm not going to be able to know. That should be a reason for you to learn, because I can't explain to you Salvador Gigante if you don't know Spanish. I'm sorry. There's just certain things there, certain nuances within it. I can't tell you. And some of your family, they can't tell you because they don't know English. And if they're over 60, it's going to be hard for them to learn English at this age if they don't already know it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Sábado Gigante, El Show del Mediodía.
El Gol de la Placa, Marimal, my favorite novela in the world. You cannot tell me anything about that, which is a classic. These are all things like que nosotros los criamos en eso, right?
Yeah. Dame un break.
Walter Mercado, aunque no era, he was a spiritual Puerto Rican.
I didn't grow up listening to Hot 97. I grew up to La Mega Se Pega.
La Mega Se Pega, exactly. That was always in the car, my grandfather's car.
And if you were an island Puerto Rican and you knew Dame un break, and you knew, like, it was iconic when you would tell somebody, tú sabes, and that's a line that I kind of still use today, even though people don't understand me, because I don't care, because I will tell people when I get tired of giving second chances and third chances and fourth chances, yo digo, yo reviví un clásico de la televisión puertorriqueña contigo. Yo te di el break de la esperanza, cabrón. Because in Dame un Break, there was this segment where this blonde lady called Dagmar would take like impoverished people or people that went through like disasters or something, and you would see this old lady crying about how her house was set on fire and she lost everything. And then Dagmar would like hold her hand and cry with her. Like I would swear that woman could cry on command. And it's like, te reconstruimos la casa, te la pintamos y mira, te conseguimos una estufa nueva y una nevera nueva, and the old lady crying and Dagmar crying with her, hugging her because she got a new refrigerator and a new stove. And that segment was called El Break de la Esperanza, and it was always this piano music and her like doing this whole monologue, like documentary, like y Doña Cecilia perdió su casa en el fuego con todos sus enseres. Y era la voz de Dagmar, like voiceover, and her crying and the tears and all that shit. So if you would give somebody like a second chance, le diste el break de la esperanza. And that was like the most Puerto Rican thing ever on the island.
And was that before Move That Bus? Did
that
we
was
predate Move That Bus?
That was from the early 80s until the 90s. It was a very long running show. I will tell you that. It peaked during the same era as No Te Duermas. I would say that in Puerto Rico, it ran parallel to Sábado Gigante, but Sábado Gigante ran longer than Dame un Break. So, like, when that show was canceled, Sábado Gigante was still running.
Yeah, I don't remember Dame un Break. That might be outside of my generation. You said 90s. I was just a child.
I mean, we were children too, Biggs. Don't make it seem like we're that much older than you, sir.
I'm just 37 years old of age.
And I'm just 41. In my 41 years of experience.
I mean, like in the sense of, when you know what show I'm referencing when I say
Damn, Biggs, you make it sound like me and Mimi went with really long pipes and gray wizard hats and went to visit you in the Shire with our long ass beards.
I just don't know the name of the show. Move That Bus. It's not called that. What's the name of the show? I need help.
He thought that we were alive during the dinosaurs.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm just trying to see the Puerto Rican set the trends for everything.
Biggs. Biggs thought that Morgan Freeman narrated us when we were born at the
Right?
hospital. You know, it's like,
Bueno, Morgan Freeman been old my whole life.
Facts. Facts.
I met Morgan Freeman as a viejo. He might
Era lo
know the
mismo
something,
con Don
but
Francisco. He's always been old.
when Mr. Clark was on TV, Lean on Me, eso fue un viejo.
Facts.
He
I
went
mean,
from being old to being God. I don't know.
exactly. That's my point. He was not only God. He narrated the Netflix documentaries of the dinosaurs, like he was there. Okay.
In the time of the dinosaurs, before there were fossils. Yo, Don Francisco been old forever too.
Facts.
It's like the only person that changed was Gordo.
Right?
He got skinny. That motherfucker.
And that's actually newer than you know. The other thing is that was Dame un Break, shows like that, those were fully local television Puerto Rican shows. Like they never they were never syndicated outside of the island, actually. So if you didn't live on the island, you didn't get to watch them, period.
So that's a cultural aspect of being on the island where if you didn't live there, you wouldn't know. So you wouldn't be culturally connected in that aspect. Yeah. That's how we bridge the gap. Y'all see? We just did it.
And oddly enough, same thing with wrestling, because Puerto Rican culture is huge on wrestling, and
Hell
it's
yeah.
local wrestlers.
Yes,
It's like,
yes, they are.
I remember
and,
my abuelo, no me cambia el canal, que tiene lucha libre.
and the fact that we have had like Puerto Rican like matches from Puerto Rican federations, and we have
Mm-hmm.
fights that you will talk about in outside and outside the US, people will not believe you that it ever happened. Like, for example, the times that famous wrestlers from big
Like Hulk
brands like
Hogan. Yeah, I remember Hulk
exactly.
Hogan.
No,
Motherfucking Ultimate Warrior. The
no, and I will
Samoans were big on the island también.
and I will give you another one: Carlitos Colon versus Ric Flair.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't believe those type of matches happen. Like tú sabes. And even matches like, for example, things like Kane and Undertaker and Sabio Vega and all these other Puerto
Yeah.
Rican wrestlers that never made it famous
They had to
beyond.
make their money, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They think these wrestling federations was paying good enough where they didn't have to go and travel and fight in Japan and do all of that. Man, I used to love watching Lucha Libre. That's why I first learned about the whole mask with the Mexican wrestling. Of why they wore the mask and the sacred, shit that they had going on, why they wore it and all of that.
I mean, I will even go so far to the fact that not only did we love wrestling in Puerto Rico, we love wrestling so much that we would actually cut class to wrestle each other at the beach. You know, that was a thing for high schoolers back in the day.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, pana, quiere ir pa playa. How you say wrestle in Spanish?
¿Quieres ir para la playa a pelear lucha libre?
I was gonna say especial.
Pelear. Yeah.
That's dope.
Don't mind
Did y'all go?
me. I couldn't wait, and I've started making my bacalaitos now because I was hungry.
Oh no, no way.
No, legends say that there are hidden YouTube videos of me with my friends when we were in high school, 15, 16-year-olds, like wrestling at the beach. That's what legends say.
Oh, I believe it. If it's Oru, I believe it. We used to wrestle in the park, jumping off the jungle gyms. Because the parks at one point they had to put mats in the parks because kids were getting injured, and we would just use that to wrestle. Body slams, frog splashes, DDTs, sharpshooters. I don't know about the John Cena stuff, but we sure used to do the 3D.
Yeah, no, that's why we went to the beach because the sand was all the padding that we needed.
I like that. To grow up in Puerto Rico, being able to go to the beach all the time.
Yeah, and the fact
now
that
people losing that ability.
yeah, and the fact that back in the day you only had to pay a quarter in the bus and it would take like 10 minutes to take you to the beach.
Damn, a quarter? What the
Yeah,
say?
una
A
peseta.
quarter?
Yeah,
Yo. So I wanted to ask a healthy debate question, right? How do you guys feel about apples in the potato salad?
Oh, nah, my
yeah.
mom used to put it in the macaroni salad, and I never ate it because I didn't like that shit.
I didn't grow up with potatoes in with apples in my potato salad ever, 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 ever.
Uh,
My mom has always made her potato salad come more like not that it's even that chunky, right?
nah,
She liked it more
potatoes,
like a puree.
eggs, and mayonnaise. That's
Bah,
it. That's all they need. But she
nonsense.
No,
used to.
no, apples never, never.
And what about the ensalada? The what is it called? Elbows,
De
La
codito.
ensalada de codito.
codito. Yeah, my mom put apples in that. She used to put apples in that.
Hold on one second.
I never ate that. I didn't. I ain't like. I don't like fruit in my salads.
No,
Who's this? Oh, this is Bray. Yo, that's crazy because that picture of that little kid on the right before that looked like me. I got a picture
dude.
right now that I can send you, and it look just like me.
No, this was Dame un break back in the day. You know, this was the documentaries that style and all about the.
Damn, they got RC Cola out there.
Yeah,
We were
Dude,
talking about that the other day about the RC cola. Somebody was like,
yo, I used to
"That's like
only
mad."
time
I love RC. I'm not even gonna lie. And
I only had RC Cola in Pennsylvania.
oh no,
So
I had
yeah,
RC. I had it growing up, and that was the soda we used for the soda floats. Porque era más
that's because
baratita.
you lived up by the Jamaicans and all that, and they drink that.
Yeah.
On my side of town, it was Pepsi or Coca Cola.
Okay, I have a question. Do you drink soda?
Yeah, I drink soda.
Okay. So since you've moved from New York, right? In New York, I was a huge Pepsi drinker. That's all I drank was Pepsi. When I moved to the South, the Pepsi tasted different and I became a Coca-Cola drinker. And the Coca-Cola from Florida to the one in Texas is completely different on the flavor profile as well. Do you still drink Pepsi?
Nah, I drink Coke Zero. I don't drink
Oh,
Pepsi. I only drink Pepsi if that's the if I'm checking out and I'm out by the fridge at Publix, I
hmm.
grab a Pepsi. But I only drink Coke Zero because of the taste. When I drink alcohol and I mix with Pepsi, it don't matter. It's just alcohol. I want the alcohol taste. I don't want the Pepsi. But I drink Coke. Even once I left New York, I used to always drink Coca Cola. But even in Pennsylvania, I switched to Coke because it don't taste the same. I don't
Not
know if
them
it's the
giving us a
water.
flag. Hold on. They
So
gave us
what?
a flag because he showed the video from the show.
No way. Oh, that show must have some real cultural and significant importance.
appeal it.
I did. I just appealed it. I just appealed it. I wasn't paying attention because you're not making these bacalaitos. So.
Nah, we need to make sure that we start letting people know about that show. That means it was a
Mm-hmm.
huge. If we flag on a Singaporean app, that means it's a global
That part and
issue.
the fact it wasn't even up that long.
No, I saw was an abuela with a perm and a relax, almost like the cat's hair. That cat's so fluffy.
You know what it is? I kind of wish though too, like you see how easily we can have these conversations, right? And if there's something that one or the other has to correct, we're not getting defensive. I wish that more people would look at connecting within the culture the same way.
That's the issue. Is that everyone want not everyone, but a majority of people want to live their life in defense mode because
Mm-hmm.
I heard them or I did this or because this is this and all. And I'm not saying they're playing victim. All I'm saying is that a lot of times they playing bitch because
That
at
part.
what point in your life do you sit there and go, you know what? Who was it that said it in the comments? Like Fortaleza said, like they were complaining, and now I gotta bring you back because you were talking all that shit. At what point in your life do you go, I made the choice?
That part.
Because at one point you can make the choices. You can make the choices of your own life. And once your frontal lobe develops at 25, everything after that is your decision. You can't blame no one else.
That's the thing that I think where I get stuck up for a lot when it comes to certain people, that I'm like, after you can use how you were raised, you can use so many things up until a certain point. After that, you're responsible to either unlearn whatever that you learned incorrectly, or open your mind to expand and further your knowledge. Right? You can't use the excuse, well, this was the way I was raised, this is the way the fuck I am at 35 fucking years old. Right? You
Mm-hmm.
need to unlearn that shit. Right? And too many people are caught up in this, I already know everything I need to know. I am the way I am. Take it or leave it. And then they're not understanding that when you're not included in spaces and conversations, when you're actually being dismissed is because you decided to dig your foot in the ground and be like, well, this is it. I don't need to learn anything else because what I learned when I was 15 years old, that's what it is, even though I'm 45. And I'm a firm believer that if you are the same person you were at 20 years old that you are at 40, you just wasted 20 years of your fucking life. Right? Because at the same time, you're always supposed to be learning, you're always supposed to be growing. And us
Exactly.
continually us continually expanding our knowledge, our emotional intelligence, knowing how to connect to people regardless of where they're from or what they were taught. It's what is going to keep the culture connected, and it's going to have the culture evolve.
Hmm.
You
It's
know?
like right. I grew up in the projects, right? I grew up in the projects. I was on welfare. I, had food stamps, Medicaid. I remember selling cans and bottles just to buy bread. I
Mm-hmm.
remember all of this. I remember, I lived in a two-parent household. And people would be like, oh, but you have your dad and your mom. But they didn't understand that. My dad had his troubles, my mom had her troubles, so you don't know what's going on in the house. And now I'm a 37-year-old man and I'm sitting here unsatisfied with my life and I'm blaming everything that happened in the past on it. Where I'm like, you know what? Yeah, everything I dealt with growing up, at what point did I had to sit there and realize, you know what? What am I gonna do to change my life? Not just
That
for me, but for everyone
that
for
part.
for 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 everyone I interact with because my energy is now going to be transcribed and delivered. I'm going to give my energy to people that I don't even know, and maybe my interaction with them will force different outcome when they go home. So now I have to be careful with how I interact with people because I don't want them to be upset. I don't want to go home and be afraid and say things to their children possibly. So now I have to be here and like, all right, now I gotta think about what I'm saying. So now I go, you know what? Okay, that was my life then. What is my life now? What can I do to be able to speak to people? I want to be able to bring us all together and for not for us to be holding hands and have harmony. That's not realistic. but can we understand each other? Can we grow together? Can we teach each other? Can we help each other learn? Like, at what point do we do that? It isn't just about bridging the gap for Puerto Ricans in the diaspora at that point, right? It's for everybody. Anyone
Exactly.
listening.
Exactly.
You're all welcome. Let's bridge the gap together, the world, so we can bring humanity together.
Exactly that. Right? Because you know that a lot of the things that we talk about, yes, we talk like a lot of the focus would be for Puerto Ricans, but then so many things we can apply it to other communities as well.
Absolutely.
Yep. We just gotta take it step by step, and we gotta start, like we've been saying, bridging the gap, coming together, and just stop that bickering, you know, because we have so many problems on both sides. Like, it's like the island has its issues, but the diaspora also has its issues too. The thing is that it's for the diaspora, it's also a little bit broader in terms of that a lot of the issues are overlapping with issues that are also affecting, you know, the people in the US, thanks to Mr. Flaming Hot Cheetah, So it gets lost in that shuffle, you know.
You are very right. Well, my services are not needed for me to go food shopping. So everyone left me here in the house. So I'm actually going to take advantage of the fact that I am alone for the first time this entire week and end the podcast here.
Oh wow.
Well,
Wow. Okay.
I'm never alone. You
Any
know that.
Yeah, that is rare. Any words of wisdom, you know, for before we wrap things up, you know.
Keep an open mind. In everything that you do, definitely keep an open mind. Ask questions. There is no such thing as a stupid question unless you're asking me about the Taínos went extinct, right? Because that's documented. They didn't go extinct,
Yeah.
right? But always keep an open mind. And when you're asking for someone to teach you, for someone to guide you, for someone to enlighten you, do so humbly. Don't ever go to someone that you want to teach and then you're trying to teach them how to teach you because the information you saw on a Wikipedia website is going to negate everything that this person is telling you. Be open-minded, be humble about it. And, if our island, if our culture, if our home, if our people is as important to you as you say that it is, put your money where your mouth is. And I'm not saying literally. Be out there, learn about what's going on the island, learn about the things that are affecting our people, find out how you can help the island. Sometimes it's not always money. Sometimes it's advocating, it's sharing, it's writing your congressman.
When the people show loyalty to the
Do
empire.
things that if you really want to see a change, take that first step. Change always starts with one person, and then from there we can go.
Thank you.
That's my TED talk.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Everybody, thank you for joining this podcast. Thank you for joining este episodio. Felcrato, gracias por llegar a último minuto, como siempre, cuando estamos cerrando y subiendo. You know.
Yo lo que
Nothing.
estoy aquí stuffing my face with bacalaíto, so I'm gonna enjoy these and probably take a bubble bath without my kids being around. So to the next one, I'll catch you on the flip side.
Good